Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final night. We're going to start because we've got quite a few things to cover. Welcome, Zoomers. We want to take a minute to do a couple things before our presentation, and then we'll do a couple things after, so it's not all at the tail end. So someone asked, what is the definition of tech? So I want to take you through what we want the definition of tech to be. So a technology business plan would encompass a new idea in the form of solution that meets a new requirement on unarticulated needs. And Kenny Josh came to mind. People didn't know that they needed that laser, right? So an articulated need, that's an idea. Or an existing market need, or falls within a product or a process. Product can come in three different forms: development of a new product, such as a Fitbit, Amazon Kindle, an improvement of the performance of an existing product, such as an increase in the digital camera resolution of the iPhone 7, or a new feature added to an existing product, such as a power windows to a car. A process is a combination of facilities, skills, technologies used to produce, deliver, support a product, or provide a service. These can include changes in equipment, technology used in manufacturing, plant design, improvements in tools or techniques, process improvements, software solutions, things that are used in the supply chain or the delivery system, changes in the tools used to sell and maintain goods, as well as methods used for accounting or customer service. You're going to see that definition when we go to the business plan submission, and I'm just going to pop into that if you don't mind. So it's on the chinookchallenge.com website. It's under, we've got it minimized, but I'll just go right here. It's under the business plan submission page. Here's where you all need to write down CEC 2019. Yes, Tyler?
Just a little thought about this description. You're talking about Fitbit and Amazon Kindle, but this could also, which are electronic, are you referring though to digital technologies, or could it be a mechanical, a wooden instrument or something?
If it's an improvement to something, we can talk about specifics after, but if it's an improvement to something.
I know that there's other people who have who might have something that's not electronic in nature, but still technology.
If it improves the process, if it is a new product to a market, it can be a wooden something. Help yourself to a sub if you want one, young man. Okay, so that definition, if you're worried about not seeing it again, but it's on your shared materials Google site, is on our business plan submission. So once again, write it down. CEC, capital letters, 2019 is what you need to get in here, okay? And scroll down to the part where it says you pick a stream. Okay, so I'm picking technology screen. Can you see? Yep. I'm picking the technology screen, and underneath of it is that same definition, okay? Which leads me to the second part of this discussion tonight. Tech Connect has offered a 12-month technology incubator space, office space, which is a desk and a chair, and support to the winner of a separate standalone competition. So you don't have to apply for it. One doesn't affect the other. You could technically win both if you want. But if you're interested in that separate aspect, underneath the technology stream here, it says, companies applying for the CEC technology stream can choose to also apply for the Office Space Tech Connect incubator in Lethbridge for 12 months. Check yes or no. If you say yes, you're interested, then you'll get a joint email from myself and from Tech Connect telling you what you need to do. And basically it's submitting the same business plan to them and a 1 to 2 minute video introducing your team, and then they have 3 questions that they want an answer to. So you don't have to apply to that, if you want to, I want you to know where to find it, okay? And now you know what the definition of technology for us is. Any non-specific questions about that?
Is this new funding, or is this a?
It's an in-kind prize that they offered us, but they had stipulations to it. Okay. I can have this off, it's not a big deal. Okay, just to hop back to that agenda there for a second. So, we've defined tech and awards. Now we're going to have marketing tips from Craig Elias. We're so thrilled that he could come and join us tonight. He's going to also do a little presentation on pitching your business plan. We're going to break at 7:30. At 7:45, we're going to have a success story. And then we're going to get back to some more things about business plan submissions, screener evaluations, what you need to include in your business plan, etc. So if I can, without further ado, introduce Mr. Craig Elias from Bull Valley College. I will minimize my stuff, and then he can come pull up what he needs to pull up. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. So has anybody seen me present before?
Get back in your little spot.
Okay, get back. Oh, yeah, see? I have to be trained. Usually what happens is I walk around and I spend more time talking to people like this, and because there's a camera, I have to stand like here.
And because of the mic.
Like, because of the mic. And I'll try to be loud. So, who's seen me before? Okay, so have you seen me do the nailing your pitch presentation before? Yes, you have. Well, where did you see me do this before?
On a webinar.
On a webinar. Okay, totally possible. I don't think I've actually given this presentation here. I've been here for the last couple of years. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first presentation is how to nail your pitch, because I think that's the most pressing thing, given the fact that hopefully some of you are going to do a pitch. Then I will spend some time related to sales and marketing for startups or early stage companies. So, technology, there we go. Who am I? I'm Craig Elias, and I'm a big believer of LinkedIn. In fact, I was looking on LinkedIn today, and my 16-year anniversary is in 8 weeks. So I've been on LinkedIn long enough that I even know my user number. Anybody know their user number for LinkedIn? There's 700 million users on LinkedIn. I'm user 3,956. I got on day 8. I had 27,000 connections on LinkedIn. And I'm a big believer that LinkedIn as an entrepreneur is the best resource on the planet. Why is that? Why is LinkedIn such a great resource for entrepreneurs? You want to guess?
If I had to harbor a guess, I think it would be to get easy connections because you get to see people in your nearby area.
Yeah, you get to build connections. And for me,
Stop.
Yep.
Because they can't hear that.
Yep.
So he either has to go to the wired mic or you have to repeat the question
Okay.
before you answer, okay?
Okay, so the comment was, and what's your first name?
Mackenzie.
Sorry?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie. So Mackenzie's comment was, because it's easy, and in some respects that's partly true, because especially when people live close to you, now you can find them online, even though they may be around the corner, you don't know who they are. Plus, what I find is if you look for other people that are entrepreneurs, if you want some help, who's the best person to get help from? Mackenzie. Other entrepreneurs. They've been through this before. Most entrepreneurs, I believe, are successful because they got help. And there's kind of this brotherhood or sisterhood of entrepreneurship, which basically says if you got help from somebody else, your job is to pay it forward and get help from other people. So I'm a big believer of LinkedIn. In fact, for my first business idea, I had this little idea and I took some people out for coffee, and my little idea became a big idea, and I'll talk a little bit about what happened. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with a college in the United States called Babson College. Babson is the #1 place on the planet to go learn entrepreneurship. It's been ranked that way for 21 years. Graduates of Babson College make more money than graduates of any other school in North America except for one, and that is just MIT. So I've had a chance to learn a lot of stuff from spending time with Babson College and this program they run for Goldman Sachs. I am a growth advisor for a cool group of people down in Silicon Valley called GrowthX, and they only take people who've already been through an accelerator. Does anybody know what an accelerator is? Or what's the difference between an incubator and an accelerator? What's the difference?
Incubator, getting your idea up and running and proven and in the marketplace, and accelerator, scaling that up.
So the idea is the incubator gets you started and the accelerator blows it up, which in some respects is right. But what happens is an accelerator gives you something you all need as a startup that incubators don't give you. What do you all want right now? Money. So an accelerator generally gives you money, somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000, and they take between 5 and 15% of your company. That's the difference between an incubator and an accelerator. I have some really cool friends that started a company they sold to Oracle for $957 million. Took them 10 years to go through that process. They're now building a second company, and they're thinking they can do it twice as fast. So I've been through this a bunch of different times. If you come to Calgary, anybody ever go to Calgary on occasion? Okay, if you come to Calgary, you can have an hour of my time. I'm really expensive. There is a coffee shop across the road or across the tracks from Bow Valley College. You buy me a double tall latte, you can have an hour of my time. Okay? I have done a ton of incubator and accelerator visits across North America, so Canada, United States, and Australia. I've learned a ton of stuff there. I've also presented at a bunch of these. But I am uniquely qualified to do today because I was in a pitch competition a while ago, more than a decade ago now, and first prize was $1 million US. I won the entire contest. I spent a year living on an island halfway between San Francisco and Oakland. Anybody ever been to San Francisco? Right, and you drive to Oakland, there's a bridge, then a tunnel. That tunnel is underneath what's called Yerba Buena Island. I lived on Yerba Buena Island for a year. It was a 6-minute commute on public transit to my office in downtown San Francisco. I didn't even take my car. And the way that I got into that contest, it was open to anybody on the planet. You submit 1,500 characters about your idea, and the theory is the guy who runs the contest, very famous venture capitalist down in Silicon Valley, Tim Draper. Whole idea is if you're in the top 10, you get 5 minutes to pitch to him over a webcam. So think about this in 2005. 2005, we didn't all have webcams. If you got on the top 10, they actually mailed you a webcam so you could do the pitch. So I entered this contest, got my 1,500 characters, not words, on a page, and I'm like, wow, I think I can be in the top 10. I think my idea is brilliant, like I'm sure most of you in the room think their idea is brilliant. So what did I do? I went around town and told all these people that would listen, I'm going to be in the top 10. What do you think they all said to me? Yeah, right. You're the snotty-nosed, first-time entrepreneur who's 40 years old. You have no idea what you're doing. You're never going to make it in the top 10. But it turns out they were right. But it turns out, for whatever reason, this guy named Tim Draper, he didn't pick 10 companies to get to the next stage. He actually picked 11. So I get my 5 minutes of fame over a webcam. And I created this pitch. And what I knew was that most of us talk at about 125 words a minute. So I know if I can get 625 words in, that's my 5 minutes. And it didn't matter what I did. It just seemed like every time I practiced, it was always 5 minutes and 8 seconds. And what I was thinking to myself was on the day where I present to Tim, all I have to do is talk a little faster. I can do that, right? That'll get it all in 5 minutes. But there was a problem. And the problem was this. I was 30 seconds into my presentation, and he started asking me questions. And all I could think to myself at the time was, can you please just shut the f up, because I only have 5 minutes. But what had happened in 30 seconds? He loved the idea. So what ended up happening was I got invited to go down to California to pitch in person. And in order to do that, I needed to spend some money on airfare, but I had a problem. I'm a first-time entrepreneur. What do I not have right now that I need? Money. So at the age of 40, I phoned my dad. I said, Dad, I need above $1,000. I'm going down to California. I'm going to be in this $1 billion idea contest. And if I win, I come home with $1 million. Now, I have no idea if my dad thought I was crazy, but the good thing is he loves me. He gave me the $1,000. I've since repaid it. And I went down, and I actually pitched. And I ended up getting $1 million. After the whole thing was done and I moved down to California, I asked him, what did you see in 5 minutes? Like, what made you decide you were going to give me the money? And he basically told me 2 things. He said, first of all, it didn't take me 5 minutes. It took me 30 seconds. And also, I didn't decide I was going to give you $1 million. I actually decided in that 30 seconds, I was going to give you 5. Because odds are, you're going to need more money when you spend the first $1 million. So for me, I'm a huge believer. You can capture people's interest right away in a presentation. because I'm going to share with you all the things that I have learned about giving dynamite pitches. I'm going to give you some examples, all right? And I'll give you some templates. So why did I put this presentation together? The whole idea is, how do you become rock stars? Yes?
Can you give us that 30 seconds?
Wow, I have it written down. I'd have to go back and actually look at it again, but that's actually, you know what? The next time I do this, I should do that. That's a really good point, okay?
You have that.
I have it, so here's what I'll actually do. So if somebody reminds me, I will actually take my slides and the actual script I wrote out, I will put it up so you can see it.
We're not going to answer the next question unless they go to the mic.
Okay, Mike, good question. Thank you very much. Okay, so what's your first name?
David.
Sorry?
David, D-A-V-I-N.
David. Okay, so David's question was, can I share what that 30 seconds was? It's been so long I've totally forgotten. And nobody's asked me to do this in like 15 years. So well done to David. Questions are that half of the battle of being successful. So I'll try to find a way to turn everybody in the room into a rock star. Here's what I can tell you. I do this at a school, college, where the vast majority of students have English as a second language. These are first-time entrepreneurs that are generally under 25, and it's the first time they present to a room of 100 people. If I can do it with them, I can do it with you. Okay? So what's inside the presentation? Best practices. We'll talk about what I've learned works and doesn't. The challenge is most of us make some rookie mistakes. If you could not make the rookie mistakes the first time round, you'll be even better the second time round. We'll give you some examples, before and after examples of what it should look like. And then I'm going to give you different pitch formats. How long do you have for this pitch? If you pitch, how long is it?
15 minutes.
8 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah, there's 15 minutes.
Fif- 15 minutes, so 15 minutes for actual talking, or 5 minutes for the pitch and 10 minutes for Q&A?
No, 15 and 15.
15 and 15, okay. So my slides, if you want these slides, pull out your phone, take a picture of this. If you're at home, you can do a screen capture. I know you can get it also online,
Or shared.
right? So there's 2 ways you can get it. I have my next presentation also the same way. I use a link shortener. The capitals in this case actually matter. So the N has to be capitalized, the Y, the P, and that's today's dates. Okay? So my job at Bow Valley College is to help more students become entrepreneurs. This is that thing I love to do. And somebody asked me a long time ago, can you teach entrepreneurship? I am not convinced you can teach entrepreneurship. But what I am convinced is people can learn entrepreneurship. What's the best way to learn? How do you learn something? Just by doing it. You just get started, you make mistakes, you will get better. Here's what I've learned when you get started with your first pitch or presentation. Everybody wants to know how you got here. So one of the first things you have to do in a pitch is you have to tell your backstory. How did you come up with the idea? How did you get together with your partner? What have you done to make you successful to this point? They want to know your story about how did you get here. So hi, my name's Craig Elias, and this is my story. Everybody wants to know what that is. In 15 minutes, that backstory should probably take at least 60 to 90 seconds. Everybody wants to know where you come from. How did you come up with the idea? Okay? Here's the thing most entrepreneurs don't do a good job of. When you get a chance to present, you're in front of an audience. Most of the people in the room would like to help, but you have to let them help you. So at the end of every presentation, I think you ask for more than just money. I think you ask for help. I'm a big believer that anytime you get a chance, you should ask for a mentor. Because you'll learn near the end of this presentation why mentors are so important. But I want to give you an example of someone who's a really good mentor, or an example of somebody in this specific case who was a really good mentor. One of the things I did when I was down at Silicon Valley, I went to these breakfast pitch sessions in front of angel investors. One of them is called the Keiretsu Forum. It's a huge room, about 140 people. I would say the vast majority are easily worth over $50 or $100 million. And these are all angel investors, and people get to pitch for 7 minutes to these guys and gals that are very rich, and the whole idea is maybe they'll become an angel investor. And I had a chance to go pitch to this room, but before you actually pitch yourself, you go the month before, and you get to watch what other people do. And I saw 2 crazy engineers from Stanford. who found a way to put a fuel cell inside a jacket. So how many of you have a Gore-Tex jacket? Okay, Gore-Tex jacket, it's really good when it's rainy, but guess what happens when it's cold? You need all these extra layers. So what they decided to do was take this little cartridge of hydrogen, put it in a jacket, and then put this fuel cell in the jacket. So if you got cold, you just open up this little valve, and all of a sudden, your jacket would warm up. And they're 5 minutes into this presentation, and they said, well, we're going to stop here for a second because we want to ask everybody in the room a question. How many of you think this is a crazy idea and you would never invest? And like every single hand in the room went up. I watched this. And then they said, well, we're going to tell you one thing. And we think it's going to change all of your minds. Our mentor is the last CEO of North Face. Now, who would like to invest? And all of a sudden, all the hands went right back up. So why was that guy such a good mentor? Why did everybody all of a sudden decide, wow, now I'm going to invest in these people? What is it that CEO brings that makes all the investors now think there's less risk in being an investor in that company? What do they bring? What does that mentor bring?
Experience.
He brings experience, yep. Success, yes.
Knowledge.
He brings connections. Brand rec. He has credibility. So I'm a huge believer if you get a chance, you want to go away and you want to ask for a mentor. Mentors are awesome. They can do some unbelievable things, especially if they have a Rolodex. There is this thing on entrepreneurship, it's called transactional velocity. It's the ability to pick up the phone and get things done faster. When you try to pick up the phone and call somebody you don't know, they're like, who are you? What are you selling? What do you want? You go through this whole process before they'll even give you any time. When I was down in the valley, I met a guy named William. William heard my story. He says, great, you got a cool story. How can I help? I said, I really want to find a way to get to a very famous guy in the valley. His name is Guy Kawasaki. And William says, he's a friend of mine. Here's his cell phone number. Phone him up. Tell him, I told him he needs to give you 20 minutes. There is no way I could call him up out of the blue as the snotty-nosed first-time entrepreneur out of Calgary who has no idea what he's doing and get his time and attention. So if you ever get a chance, try and find a way to get a mentor. When you're in front of a room of people, everybody's got all these connections. If you ask for the right person, you will get it. I was in Vancouver a few years ago for a pitch competition for student entrepreneurs, and I saw this young lady give this presentation. And the last thing she said was, I'd love to find a way to get on Dragon's Den. And I'm like, she doesn't want to get on Dragon's Den. She needs to meet Arlene Dickinson, and I do some stuff for Arlene on occasion. So as soon as she was done, I walked to the front of the room. I got 2 of her business cards. I said, I'll take one. I'll see Arlene next week. I will give it to her. If she hadn't told me what she wanted, what's the odds I would have helped? Like 0. So when you get in front of a group, make sure at the end of the presentation you have an ask. This is the mistake I see way too many people do with presentations. They use words, way too many words. So if you've got a slide that has a paragraph in it, take the paragraph out and put a sentence in. Anybody got any paragraphs in their slides?
Anybody got any paragraphs in their slides?
Okay, hopefully not.
Okay, hopefully not.
Okay. How many of you have sentences in a slide? Anybody got a sentence in a slide? Don't be shy, admit it. The rest of you are liars, probably. So, if you've got a sentence, what should you replace it with? A bullet. If you've got bullets, what should you replace the bullets with? Pictures. Because as soon as you put words on a slide, what do you think everybody's doing? They're reading them. And if they're reading them, they're not listening to you. If you've got pictures, find a way to put one picture on. And if you've got one picture, my argument is that picture should take up the entire slide. Here's an example. So you're already reading this slide. This slide is exactly the same as this one. And the whole idea is when you're finished a presentation, that investors can see you've got a really big idea that applies to more than one geography, more than one industry, and it's more likely to be successful. That you've got this passionate team of people. How many of you in the room are all on your own? How many of the chief everything officers, CEOs? Okay, so one of the things you want to try and find a way to do as soon as you can, how can you find somebody to be on your team? So whether they're an advisor or a mentor, find a way to put some people on your team. The important thing here is not to be passionate about your product. The important thing here is to be passionate about the problem that you solve or the people that you help. If you're passionate about the product that you have, more times than not, you come across as someone who is what is often called an uncoachable. Someone who will not listen and will not take advice. As entrepreneurs, when we get started, I think our entire journey starts with one question we have to ask ourselves. Would we rather be rich or would we rather be right? Because you can't be both. And I'm a big believer that if you want to be rich, you have to leave your ego at the door and you got to start taking all this advice. So have a passionate team that's solving a problem and passionate about the problem, or the people that they help. That you've got a viable exit strategy. Investors don't give you money so you can run a company. They give you money so you can scale a company. And what they're hoping is you'll build it big enough that somebody else has interest in it, that you will get bought out by somebody else. You will make 10 times more money selling your business than you will selling a product or service that runs your business. This is why investors give you money. You want them to see you've got a viable exit strategy, that you've got a commercial service and paying customers. So if you've got some prototypes or pilots, that's one thing. But as soon as you have a paying customer, now all of a sudden they're interested, because if you can generate revenue, you can then spend it. And the fact you have a large unserved market. So if you're just focused on helping blondes in Miami, that's totally different than selling to blondes around the world or selling to brunettes around the world. The whole idea is you want to make sure people understand you have a big market that is unhappy with the way things are. And that you have the expertise and relationships needed to make this work. What I just walked through was exactly the same as the slide before. But it's very different because you're not reading, you're listening. And every time I bring up a bullet point, I get to explain a little bit about the bullet point. And you have to listen to me to learn what I'm going to say before I get to the next one. The slides that you use, so we have these pictures. The pictures are the what. They're a visual cue that you can use, that you then need to go on and explain to somebody the why or the how you think that is the case. Most first-time entrepreneurs have slides that it's what. You need to take a little bit of time on every slide. This is the what. Explain the why you think that's the case and how you're going to make that happen or how you got to that conclusion. So it's just a visual cue that you can use to tell a story. And what I learned through Tim and what I've learned a long time since then is people either get your idea or they don't. And it generally takes 10 seconds. It's this thing called confirmation bias. People either see themselves or somebody just like them or somebody they know using your product or they don't. It's either on or it's off. So before you tell your story, you need to have a hook. And the way that I teach this is you get to ask a question. So you can either ask a question or make a statement. So my first question will be, if I came to a room like this and I said, how many of you would like to make it, how many of you would like to have angel investors? As soon as I ask, all of a sudden now you're like, okay, how do I pay attention? Because this is what the story's all about. I'm not telling you what is in the content. I'm telling you the value of being my customer. How many of you eat healthy, but find it's hard to get others in your family to eat the same food you do? What if I told you I had a really simple way to make healthy food taste better? Who would be interested? If I had a simple way to lose 10 pounds, who would be interested? So making these statements or asking questions at the beginning of your presentation, that can be part of your hook. And when you ask the question, one of the really important things to do is you need to ask the question, but you need to put your hand up while you ask it, because you want everybody else in the room to put their hand up. If you don't put your hand up, they won't. Now, I love this question piece. I've been doing pitch coaching for ATB and their booster stage events. We've done 23 of them together. We have one more left. It got to the point where the executive were like, can you teach them something else? Everybody's doing it. Well, the hard part is it works. So how do you not do it? And then I met a lady who has a honey company. Her name is China, if I remember correctly. And she actually did something very different, and I was actually really impressed. So what she has is honey
From the bee.
from the bees. And she started her presentation by saying, I bet everybody in this room has a jar of honey at home. Hang on one second. Had to get my water. And here's what I bet. I bet for everybody in this room, it's either pasteurized and there's nothing good in it, or it's from somewhere overseas or offshore, you have no idea what's in it. Now, let me tell you what I have. So she was able to get the attention of almost everybody in the room. That's the hook. It comes before your backstory. I'm also a big believer you should memorize your first 30 seconds of your presentation. Not the whole thing. You can't memorize 15 minutes. How many of you get nervous in front of a crowd? So if you memorize the first 30 seconds, you're less likely to actually get nervous. It's kind of like skiing. I used to live in North Vancouver, and I remember when I used to ski at Whistler and Blackcomb, there's this one run, and it's steep as can be, and it's long as can be. Where do you think most people fall? Right at the very top. They have no momentum, they don't get started, then they just roll the rest of the way down the hill. So I'm a big believer, if you just memorize your first 30 seconds, you'll develop some momentum and you're off to the races. Now, sometimes things go wrong. I've been to some places and I've been to some presentations where all of a sudden the speaker blows, the computer gets turned off, all kinds of things can go wrong. But if you've memorized your last 30 seconds, you can finish with a bang. And I remember one presentation, it was supposed to be 2.5 hours long. Something went wrong about 10 minutes in, and somebody came to me and said, how long's the presentation? I said, it's 2.5 hours. They're like, we thought it was 45 minutes. And I all of a sudden had to, on the fly, take out all this content, took out the wrong content, totally screwed up the entire presentation, had a really good finish. When all the surveys came back, I got a whole bunch of 4s and 5s out of 5 because I finished with a really strong finish. So if you get off track, make sure you memorize your last 30 seconds. Here's the bullseye. Lots of visuals. Try to use as few words as possible. Make sure people understand how it's relevant to them and maybe somebody that they know. Own the channel. I learned this from Sean Wise. Sean Wise is now a professor at Ryerson. He used to be a producer for the Dragon's Den. And this is one of the smartest things I think I ever heard him say. You need to own the channel. What is the channel to your customer? What is the number one channel to your customer? Nothing else is even close. What's the number one channel to your customer? Sorry? Anybody want to guess? Don't be shy. It's okay to be wrong. Anybody? Word of mouth? Okay. Word of mouth is the best way to grow your business, but it's not the channel. You can't make word of mouth happen. People can't find you through word of mouth because they only hear of you and then they go looking for you. What about all the rest of the time? What's the best channel to the customer?
Media.
Media? No.
In person.
In person? No. Starts with G. Google is the channel. You need to find a way to own the channel. So the question is, if you have a really cool product, how can you find a way to somehow own that product category, not because you've got this really cool name that you like, but it's something that people use to actually tell other people about it. Can I give you my favorite example? My favorite example is soft beef jerky. Anybody heard of soft beef jerky? No. So my son and I were scout. He's a scout. I'm a scout leader. We had this winter camp last year, and you have to snowshoe 9 kilometers on an unbroken trail. You pitch a tent, you spend the night. The next day, you do 9 kilometers back on an unbroken trail. And we were prepping for this big hike. So the first time we went out, we went to a place called Christie Lake. It's crazy steep. The snow was crazy deep. And we took this beef jerky because that's my son's favorite food to eat on the trail. All right? It's protein. It's healthy. He likes it. 2 weeks later, we went to do something similar. But now the problem is, instead of the temperature being close to 0, it's minus 17 degrees. Anybody tried to eat beef jerky at minus 17? You can't eat it. And my son found this package of what's called soft beef jerky. I'm like, wow, that's actually a really good idea. Let's get some. And I was really intrigued, so what I did was that I'm a big believer if you're going to have a name, you should own that category. So I thought, well, if they have this product that's called soft beef jerky, they should own the domain name soft beef jerky so no one can steal their market or their customers. So on my phone I looked, softbeefjerky.com. Guess what I found? They owned it. And they redirected to their actual company, which I think is called Medicine Hat Meats. And I was like, wow, that's actually really well done. But I wonder if they were smart enough to also own all the social media handles around the exact same thing. So I went to Twitter and said twitter.com/soft beef jerky. And guess what I found? They didn't own it. So there's a phone number in the back of the package. So I phoned it at Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the mom answered the phone. And I said, congratulations for doing this, but guess what? You're missing half the opportunities. This is something else you could go do. And I went back the next day, and guess what happened? They'd taken them all. So this, for me, is the channel. When people hear of you, they're going to type your name in Google. I know this more than most people because there's a second Craig Elias on the planet. He's a murderer in Pittsburgh. And I had to learn to use social media to get him off the search engine results. He used to show up on page 1. Today he shows up on page 4. Now if you type in Craig Elias, everything is me and none of it is that guy. So this is one of the ways you think you could or should own the channel for your business. That you've eliminated all the risks. So your presentation should actually say, or your business plan should actually say, what are the risks of your business? Because if you think you have none, the investors won't touch you. So you need to say, what are the risks of your business and how can you find a way to mitigate or minimize those risks? And for me, there's really 3 big ones and maybe a 4th. The first risk is it desirable? Do people even want what you have? Second of all, is it feasible? Can you actually make it or deliver it? Third of all, is it viable? Can you make money at it? And the 4th thing for me is what are you going to do if someone tries to copy your idea? How do you make your business defensible? How do you make it really hard for someone to steal your idea? Most people won't, but in case they try to, how do you find a way to defend your business? You want them to believe your success is inevitable. It's going to happen. And then this thing called FOMO turns up. Anybody heard of FOMO before? What does FOMO stand for? Fear of missing out, exactly. And if every investor I've learned has a story of the one that got away, and if they think you're going to be successful, they want to invest because the last thing they want to do is say to somebody, I let that one get away. And especially if you can be the standard in an industry. So in the case of Medicine Hat Meats, they are the de facto standard. Soft beef jerky. And it's not about going through a presentation and having all the check boxes done. It's all about getting through the entire presentation and having no red flags. So the question is, what are the red flags? So founder related. What do you think is a big red flag that's relevant to you? What do you not have they think you should have?
Experience.
You don't have a mentor. The second you don't have a mentor, what do they assume? They assume you are uncoachable, and that's why you don't have mentors. So it's really important to have a mentor. If they don't know what are called key performance indicators, what are the 3 or 4 things that drive the vast majority of your business? How do you find a way to make sure that you know your key performance indicators? And if they email you, if you take too long to respond, that's also a big red flag. What's also a big red flag is chasing what are called VCs before angels. Does anybody in the room know what the difference between a venture capitalist and an angel is? No. So an angel, not me, but an individual like me might be an angel investor. One guy, one gal who likes your idea, who gives you some money and helps you along the way. The venture capitalist has other people's money that they invest. And the reason that venture capitalists generally won't give you money before you have talked to an angel investor is they want somebody else to have done a bunch of the work to validate that your business idea is actually worthwhile before they invest your money. But before you can get money from an angel investor, who do you need to get money from? Well, yourself, yes. So you've got yourself, that's an automatic. But who else should you get money from before you go ask an angel investor? Sorry? No, not lenders. So lenders will lend you money, but that's not equity. They're not taking shares. They're not actually investing in your company. They're just lending you money. They're not taking any equity.
The 3 Fs.
The 3 Fs. Anybody heard of the 3 Fs before? Friends, family, and fools.
Oh, supposed to be the last one.
That's the 3rd F. There's a guy named Michael, he calls it yuppie bingo. There's lots of people over 40 that like to brag to their friends that they're angel investors. So you need to get those people in before you can go to a venture capitalist. Otherwise, they think that the idea hasn't been validated enough and it's way too risky to be your customer. But let me tell you something. Rules are meant to be broken. So don't let anybody ever tell you that has never happened. Because in my case, that's exactly what happened. I got money from my dad, money from my mom, and I went straight to a venture capitalist and I got the $1 million. So is it likely to happen again? Not to me. Might have happened to one of you, maybe, but you're always more likely to get money from venture capitalists if you go to angel investors and friends, family, and fools first. Here's the problem with your pitches. You put up some financials, and people are like, there is no way you can make that happen. Anytime you grow more than 100% year over year for more than 3 years, people are like, no way you can make that happen. It's even worse if you have something that needs high headcount and you have to hire twice as many people every year. So if your financials are too big, they think it's unbelievable. The hard part sometimes, if they're not big enough, they're not interested. So sometimes it's really hard. I hear this all the time from people. Everybody could be my customer. Okay, maybe it's possible that a bunch of people become your customer, but there's a segment of the market that is more likely to become your customer. How do you find a way to go focus on that segment of the market? Saying everybody is my customer is a big red flag to an investor who says there is no way everybody's your customer. You can't reach everybody all at once. So how are you going to find a way to figure out who's the most profitable portion of the marketplace and just go after them first? This is the other mistake I hear all the time. How many of you have ever said this? We have no competition. Come on, some of you in the room I know have said this at least once.
Been warned.
Right? You always have competition. You might not have direct competitors, but you always have competition. If I made everybody in this room the owner of a jewelry store, what do you compete against? You don't compete against other jewelry stores.
Flower shops.
Flower shops, because who buys more jewelry, men or women?
It's a toss-up.
That's not a toss-up. Men buy more jewelry than women. Who do we buy it for? We buy it for women. Why do we buy it? To say we're sorry, or to say I love you. So birthdays, anniversary, Christmas, Easter, Valentine's, all those different occasions. What do men buy instead of jewelry? Flowers, chocolates, perfume, lingerie, cars, pets, purses, shoes, and trips. When it was my 10-year anniversary, and I wanted to say to my wife that I love her, we're both foodies. She plays French horn for the orchestra in Calgary. If I want a date with my wife, sometimes it takes me 6 months to get a Friday or Saturday night where I can have a date with my wife. And not only are we foodies, and the fact that my wife works every Friday and Saturday night, we have no family in town. So if we want to go out, we also have to pay for a babysitter. So we never really went out that much. And I'm saving up for my 10-year anniversary, and I heard of a place. The place is called San Sebastian, Spain. Anybody ever heard of San Sebastian, Spain? There are more Michelin-rated restaurants in San Sebastian, Spain than anywhere else on the planet except for Tokyo. It's 20 kilometers south of the French border on the ocean side of Spain. I'm a heat weenie. I'm British. If it gets past 26, I wilt. And guess what the average temperature in San Sebastian, Spain is in August? It's 26 degrees. I'm like, that's where I'm going. So that's what I did. I took my wife to San Sebastian, Spain, and we ate Michelin-rated food. One of the places we went to is called Arzac. At the time was ranked number 16 on the planet. The only problem with my honeymoon was the fact that Spain had a heat wave. And the average temperature was 36 to 39 every single day. So we had to have siestas every afternoon. When somebody says social media is my primary marketing strategy, who's laughing? Dude, that's totally hilarious. You're a startup. How many followers do you have? 5? 50? 500? 5,000? It is nothing. Social media can never be your primary marketing strategy until you're way bigger. Influencer marketing might be a good strategy, where those that already have 100,000 or 1 million followers talk about your stuff. But general social media is not a good marketing strategy. I'm a big believer if you're going to have a presentation, you need to have pictures. These are my 2 favorite places to get pictures. They're free, and they're really high quality. So Pexels.com or Unsplash.com. Both awesome places to get high quality pictures you can use any way you want without having to pay for them. So, does anybody have any questions?
And if you do, go to the mic.
Yeah, if you do, go to the mic, and if there's questions that maybe come up online, how would I know if those questions come up online?
I'll tell you. I've
Okay.
answered a couple of them. There's any right now.
Does anybody have any questions before I go into pitch formats? So, question, Mike.
I just wanted to go back to that slide real quick. What was
Oh,
it?
that one? Go back to that slide.
Unsplash paper.
Unsplash and Pexels. Awesome pictures. And free. Like, how can you get better than free? Any? If you have a question, we can use a mic, if we can, okay? Just so everybody can hear,
That's right.
okay? Any questions online?
I've been handling them for you.
Okay, you've been handling questions, okay? So, maybe just tell me your first name and then what's your question?
Twyla, and do they have any like stipulations, or is there any kind of things that
You can't do with it?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. So I'm sure it differs a little bit by each publisher, but for the most part, it's related to what's called Creative Commons license. You can use it any way you want. Some of them ask you to give them credit, but for the most part, no, they're like totally free. I don't think you can put them on a TV ad or something else, but for the most part, they're free to use any way you want.
So you can use them on a website.
You can use them on websites. That's the way I understand it. I tend to use most of them in my presentations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have one more question. Hold on 1 second. I've forgotten your first name again.
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie. I want to say Mitch, but I wasn't sure. Okay, Mackenzie.
I'd answer to anything. It's
Okay.
actually about that, just because I've dealt with it beforehand, dealing with pictures and that kind of stuff. You can use it on websites. You can't use it on anything you're going to be generating money from. So if you're going to use it to put on a box that you're selling, you cannot. You can also not use it for any actual advertisements. Just wanted to let people know that.
Cool.
Makes sense.
But pay attention to the sort of descriptions, because most of them have a licensing, and then there's different variations of Creative Commons licenses. So pitch format. This is ATV Booster. 3 minutes, 3 slides. What is your story? How did you get here? What is your product story? And in this case, what's your booster story? What are you going to do with the money? How much have you been given already? And then in the case of ATV Booster, they always ask you to have a 24-hour special. We run our own business idea competition on campus. It's called Venture Quest. You get 5 minutes, 7 slides. The first 45 seconds is your backstory. And I unfortunately don't get to sit in the room and watch these presentations live because I'm outside doing all the scoring, but I get to watch some of the videos. And it's amazing how the people in the room get connected to the person who's presenting because of the story that they have. And how did they get there? It is, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's incredibly motivating to see what some people go through and then find a way to do what they do. And this is the thing that I'm amazed if you get a chance to do pitches. Here's what I can almost guarantee you. When you're done your 15-minute pitch, your life will never be the same. Because now all of a sudden you're going to have confidence. And that goes with you everywhere you go. I've been doing this for a long time, and on one occasion I got asked by a student to go to a conference. It was an energy conference called the Student Energy Conference. And I was going to be at the head table. And his name was Jeremy. And so I'm at the head table. This whole event's supposed to start at 7 o'clock. And at 10 to 7, he comes to me and says, Craig, I have a problem. The keynote speaker is still at the airport. He's not going to be here in time. I need a 25-minute presentation or 25-minute speech on the power of a legacy. What do you think you could do? There's 450 people in the room. Half of them are students, half of them are successful business executives. I'm like, there's no way I can do anything in 10 minutes. And I tried to put it together, a presentation, and nothing came to me. So I went downstairs, and what I decided is all I was going to do was I was going to tell stories for 25 minutes, make sure I used the word legacy a bunch of times in every story. That was my strategy. I had a complete home run. You can come to me now and ask me to speak about anything in front of everybody, but now what's different from today than what I did before that presentation or that speech is I now have more confidence. And as soon as you're more confident, you'll say yes to way more opportunities. So if you're thinking maybe you don't want to pitch or go any farther, my suggestion is just go for it. You'd be amazed the things you learn about yourself when you do these presentations. I'm just floored that students do this in a second language. Like imagine you moved today to Russia, you had a really cool idea, you got on a pitch competition, now you have to give a 15-minute presentation in Russian. Think about that. And that's what they do. Right?
I want to stand closer to this and then I don't have to go that way.
Okay, go, yes.
They were having a little bit of a challenge about elevator pitches. So, I mean, you'd be a wonderful person. to
Elevator
speak to.
pitches, okay.
So move it back.
So, good question. An elevator pitch. So, I'm not a believer of elevator pitches. Here, and here, I'm going to define an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is something that's 30 seconds long that describes all kinds of different stuff. If I had time, my plan is to get to the second presentation. I'm going to teach you how do you build a bridge with somebody. How do you find a way to say something in 7 seconds or less that makes the other person ask the question, how do you do that? Because you don't want to pitch, you want to have a conversation.
Right, and that's what I need, like at a party or whatever. So
What do you do? So the example I gave you, we help healthy food taste better. It's actually a guy who's come up with a different way to produce oils without having to use chemicals. And the oil tastes a whole lot better, so the food tastes a whole lot better. An example I will give you is somebody says, I help CFOs eliminate inventory write-downs. Do you have any idea what they do when they say that? No, so you have to ask the question, how? It's what I call building a bridge. So we'll get to that. I have until 7:30, right?
Yes, yes.
That's good, we'll get there. Who's your target market? So spend 45 seconds defining who is your target market. Be as specific and as narrow as possible. Let me give you an example. If you make chemical-free cleaners, who's your target market if you make chemical-free cleaners? Anybody want to guess who the target market might be? Moms. So people say parents. Well, parents, yes, but it's more moms than dads. Okay? But it's not just moms in general. It's moms with their first kid. Because if you've had one kid already and they didn't die because you had chemicals under the kitchen, what do you think? They're not going to die. And even then, it's not just first-time moms, but it's first-time moms that are over the age of 35. Why does over 35 make a difference? Because they're like, man, I waited this long to have a kid. I may never have a second one. I am going to do nothing to screw this one up. I want to tell you that when my wife got pregnant, I flew back and forth from San Francisco every other weekend just to change the cat litter.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's this stuff in cat litter that apparently can do damage to babies, right? That's how risk-averse. So I met my wife when we were 40. We didn't have my son until she was almost 43 years old. Okay, do you think we were pretty protective? Absolutely. So be as specific as possible about who's the target market, who's motivated to become your customer. Talk about your competition. Again, not competitors, but competition. Spend 60 seconds on financial analysis, not just what the numbers are, but how did you come up with those numbers? How do you justify them? How do you prove to somebody it's not just a wild-ass guess? And then in our case, they have to have some sort of social impact, which is how do you find a way to make a difference while you make a living? And then they have the ask. And I'm just amazed how well these kids do with this. So when you know what you shouldn't be doing, when you have a structure, and when you practice, you're much more likely to be successful. When it comes to a pitch competition, there are two things that I can usually tell you about the winners. And it almost always comes down to two things. One, who practiced the most. And second, who's the most confident. So here's my question. Can you fake confidence? Yes. So I've forgotten your first name. Dab. How do you fake confidence? You can go to the mic if you think you have an answer. How do you fake confidence? Can you fake confidence? Because I'm a believer you can.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah.
I totally fake it till you make it, but how do you fake confidence?
Based on how you sound.
Based on how you sound. Okay, can we be any more specific?
So power posing.
Sorry?
Power poses.
So power poses, maybe, yes.
Open yourself up.
But you open yourself up, but there's one thing.
Smile.
Sorry?
Smile.
Smile, smiling helps. As far as I'm concerned, loud and proud. I know, I can pretty much predict who knows the national anthem if I go to a hockey game. Because the people that are singing it really quietly, what are the odds they know the words? But if there's some guy or gal belting it out, what do you know? They know the words. So if you get a chance and you get to pitch, make sure you're not super quiet. You want to be loud and proud. I did a presentation for a bunch of accountants once, and that's basically how they describe it. Okay? And I will wear that badge every day of the week. So this is a 12 questions piece. Innovate Calgary, now called Calgary Technologies Inc. They do this. Guy Kawasaki has this thing called 10, 20, 30. You get 10 slides, you get 20 minutes, you get minimum 30 size fonts. So here are your 10 slides. What is the problem? What is your solution? How do you make money? Hopefully there's more than one way you make money. What's the magic? What do you have that other people can't get? Marketing and sales. What is the competition? Again, not competitors. What? Competition. Let me just give you another example. WestJet is modeled after what is called Southwest Airlines. When Southwest Airlines first comes out, it only flies between 3 cities in Texas: Austin, Houston, and Dallas. When Southwest Airlines comes out, what does it view as its competition?
Buses.
Buses are the competition. And the cool thing is you can take a billboard halfway between Dallas and Austin and say, if you'd flown Southwest, you'd be there already. That's why you want to focus on the competition. Who's your team? Projections and milestones, status and timeline, and I don't even know what the last one is. I've totally forgotten. I'd have to go look. I'm surprised it doesn't come up. Does it come up on there? No, it doesn't. Okay, no, doesn't. Okay, 20 minutes, 30 size fonts. If you want the link, this is the link to Guy stuff. Okay, again, capital G for Guy. And I want to make sure that I get to the second presentation. So I'm going to do one more batch. This is my 7 Ps. So if you're doing 15 minutes, this might not be a bad method to follow. And when you download the slides, you should be able to see what the 10th one is. These are my 7 Ps for something that's shorter. What is the problem you're taking away? So we're not selling vitamins, we're having people solve a problem. What is the potential of your idea? It turns out in my case that there are $3 trillion worth of information in the heads of salespeople that they do nothing with 75% of the time. I have this massive market potential. And this is about the point where Tim goes, okay, I get this now. Let's start having a conversation. Then I got to explain how do I solve that problem, what is the actual product itself, how am I different or unique in the marketplace against my competition, what's my plan to make that happen, who are the people that are involved, and what's the payoff at the end. This is my format for doing this. I'm going to skip through some slides quickly because I want to get to one slide which I think is really important. Maybe I'll just do 2. So here's one. This is a mistake I made. So I had this in my slide deck, my pitch deck. What's wrong with this? Way too much. No one knows what to pay attention to. Don't put up a sheet like this. Put up a chart or a pie graph, something of that nature. Okay? The other thing I want to make sure I do is I want to just show you forms of competition. I'm going to use this guy. So this is actually a student named Marshall. And what he realized is that he had this whole pop-up restaurant for Cameroonian food. He realized other ethnic restaurants were his competition, frozen foods, and African foods. So what he did is he didn't put any words up here in this chart. He found a way to use visuals, images that you can use. And what I was confused by when I first saw this, because they're like, it's yellow, red, and green. I'm like, why isn't it orange like a stoplight? And that's when he told me that the colors of the Cameroonian flag are yellow, red, and green. Okay? So this is what I want to end with from the perspective of how do you nail your pitch. Does anybody have questions they want to ask or want clarification on anything that I've talked about so far in this, how to nail your pitch? If you got a question, maybe just go up to the mic. Okay, anybody?
And speak loudly in the mic because I'm still getting complaints.
Okay.
Sometimes I say Devin's quiet, speak loudly.
So, question for the mic?
Yeah.
Can I just speak loud?
No.
No, because the mic can't pick you up. I totally get it's a pain, but you know what? We don't have a wireless mic to hang around. But it's kind of like I don't want to pick on you. What's your first name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. If the question's important enough, they'll come down to ask it.
All right.
Okay, question.
So our test market we think is mostly women.
Okay,
You pitch to men. Men don't understand women's problems.
so go
So-
pitch to women.
So how do you find women investors?
Oh,
Really good question. So I bet you if I went to Google and typed in women investors, it's not that hard to find. I think it's like the tip of the iceberg. Once you find one, you'll find plenty. There actually is a pitch thing coming up in Calgary, I think, next week or the week after, and it's just for female entrepreneurs.
So they're out there.
They're out there. I think you just find a successful female entrepreneur. So I have my favorite, one of my favorites. Oh my goodness, I'm having a total brain fart. Alice is her name. And she's all about how does she help women entrepreneurs become more successful. So as soon as you find one successful female entrepreneur, I think you'll find lots more that they know, and that's how you get started. So you have something you want to add?
you just Google Women's Pitch Night in Calgary and it's the second item, okay?
There you go, Women's Pitch Night in Calgary. Item number 2. If you want anything in life, all you have to do is what, Rebecca?
Pardon?
Ask!
Yes.
That's all you gotta do, right? Yes.
Actually, there's in Lethbridge, if you're
Into the mic.
Into the mic, get it close to you. You gotta kiss
Can
it.
you hear me? Okay.
Okay.
In Lethbridge specifically, there is actually a women's business group that you can join and stuff. Dr. Boniface, who's in the gender studies and stuff here at the university, is a good contact for that stuff. And she will help connect people within the community, as well as there's a women's business network as well. And then there's also ATV has a booster fundraiser for women entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
So I just want to see, I don't know that it's come up. Hold on a second. I want to change because I want to share a different presentation. So let me just see if I can bring something up. I'm going to close this one if I can. Okay, so I'm going to share again. Let me just, let's see if this one will be friendly. It's on the screen, but not up. Hold on a second. Stop share. Let me just make sure I have no other. So now if I just share PowerPoint, it should say, stop share. Let's start share again.
Sorry.
And Microsoft PowerPoint. Let's see if it will do it this way.
You might need the other one. It's just sharing the
Is it?
little bar, the top bar.
Okay, hold on. You think it's this one?
Maybe, yeah.
Let's try.
The other one's not working.
15 minutes, right?
15 minutes. There we go. So,
Oh, that's not Sharon, the right one.
still not sharing?
No.
No. Hold on. Let me just make sure I can turn up everything else I've got. What else do I have? I don't need Outlook anymore because I'm not gonna use that, so let's quit that. Okay, don't need Adobe, let's quit that. I need Zoom, I don't need this. So now let's try,
Maybe try that other one again? The one that was just the bar?
so hold on a second. I'm gonna stop share.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start again. This one, do you think?
Try it. The other one's just staying on that other screen.
Somebody from Bow Valley College, the group that's meeting there, has asked, is it better to call and ask permission to pitch to a company or just show up and try to pitch? I don't think you should show up.
Yeah, I would definitely wouldn't just show up. Okay, I'm gonna do this a different way then. So let's just, because I can't get it to work the way that I want. I'm gonna do this a different way. I'm just gonna go like this. It's not my preferred way of doing it, but it's a way that works.
I think you have to share the screen again then. probably.
Okay, so now let's do the screen share. There we go. Okay. So this is a quick and dirty version of sales and marketing for startups and early stage companies. Okay. If you want to copy the book that I've written about this, if you go to my website /startup, fill in the form, you get the entire book for free. You just need to fill in the form and I'll send you the entire book. Here's the thing that most entrepreneurs struggle with. They say everybody can be our customer, but it's not everybody. Because only some people have a problem you can address, some people you can't reach, and even if you can reach them, they're not motivated to become your customer. So you need to find a way to focus on the people that are more likely to become your customer. There's a really good article in July 2012 Harvard Business Review, $10. It says, how do you find a way to sell into a smaller market? The term is, the narrower your niche, the fatter your wallet. But the question is, but hang on a second, you just told me in that last presentation, I need to have a large unserved market. Which is true, there's an opportunity to be there, but how you get there is focusing first on the people that are more motivated. You get to hide away from the big competitors in this space, and all of a sudden they wake up one day and go, oh crap. That's what happened to RIM, right? iPhones first came out, RIM said, yeah, it's a consumer product, no one's going to buy it. By the time people started this bring your own device to work thing, that was the writing on the wall. So try to find a way to figure out where's the portion of the marketplace that is most motivated. So what happens is that people start out in this buying mode of status quo. Here people are happy, they see no reason to change. Then they move into what is I call a window of dissatisfaction. Thinking of changing but haven't done anything about it yet. These are the best prospects. By the time you wait until somebody's searching for alternatives, the problem becomes they've already decided what's the solution to the problem and they've already got a preferred vendor. The odds they become your customer here, on average, is about 16 or 17%. If you reach people here, the odds they become your customer is 5 times higher. So we're trying to find a way to get to the portion of the marketplace that is unhappy with the status quo but hasn't done anything about it yet. And the next piece we got to figure out is what makes somebody all of a sudden one day motivated? How can somebody be in this buying mode of status quo on Monday, the window of dissatisfaction on Wednesday, thinking of changing, and doing something about it on Friday? And this is something that I figured out in the summer 2002. And it's basically this. This is a married man. And every day he wakes up older, heavier, grayer, balder. But he doesn't go by Rogaine to make his hair grow back until he has a very specific event. What's the event that makes a married man all of a sudden go by Rogaine? He gets a divorce. And he's like, oh, I'm back on the market. I need my hair back. So he says, I'm going to drive to the drugstore. So what does he do? He leaves his house. Well, before he gets to the drugstore, he sees a gym. It's like, well, if I'm back on the market, I should lose some weight. So he signs up for a gym membership. He leaves the gym, he's on his way to the drugstore, and all of a sudden he goes by a men's shop. He says, well, if I'm going to lose weight, I need new suits. He buys new suits. He goes to the drugstore, buys the Rogaine, but between the Rogaine store or the drugstore and his house, what is there? There's a Porsche dealership. He buys himself a brand new box store. All of that stuff because of one specific event. Let me give you a different example. What is the event that drives more people to buy life insurance than all of the other events combined? Not a death in the family, it's having a baby, or close enough to it. As soon as you pee on a little blue stick, or a stick and there's a little blue stripe, what do? You give up your, in our case, you give up your house by Peter's Drive-In, because there's a really busy street right by. You give up your Mazda 323, you buy a Subaru station wagon, and you go away and get some insurance. All because of that single specific event. So if you know what the events are, you can find a way to make sure you go where those people are. Okay? So in my world, there's actually 3 events. Somebody has their first event, and it makes them want to change. Okay? They have a second event, now they can afford to change. Now they have more money, or they have more time. But I want to give you an example about just because somebody has money and time doesn't mean they'll become your customer. Okay? So how many of you know what that is? Have you seen one of those before? This is the original iPhone that first came out. And when it first came out, I saw it on eBay for $660 US. I have more than $1,000 in my bank account. I found some software that hacked into it. Now works on any GSM network, including Fido, where I've been a customer for the longest time. Now, when I first saw this phone, I wanted it, I could afford it. But what do you think was my problem? I couldn't get it right away. Anybody want to guess why I couldn't get the phone right away? No, I could buy it. Well, it's not available in Canada, but I can buy it in the US and have it shipped to Canada. It'll work. You know what the problem is? The problem was my wife. My wife is Scottish. We don't throw anything away. So I couldn't buy it at the time, but you're like, but hang on, you got it. So something must have happened. What happened? About 3 months later, my 2.5-year-old son found my wife's really nice Motorola flip phone. What do you think he did? Without any guidance from his dad, he broke it in half. And I went to my wife and said, here, dear, you can have my really nice Sony Ericsson phone, and I will go buy this. So very often, people need to have a third event, which means how do they find a way to justify the decision to somebody else? Okay? I figured this out in 2002. Okay, a few years later, I'm going to blow this back up. Sorry. A few years later, McKinsey figured out the exact same thing. In the consumer world, people are in this thing called a loyalty loop. They go around and around and around until all of a sudden some trigger creates interest in doing something differently. Then what people do is they create what is called an initial consideration set. Now what they do is they say, this is the problem that I have, and these are all the ways I'm going to solve this problem, and then they pick one. It's like in my case, San Sebastian, Spain was in my initial consideration set. Anybody want to guess how I heard about San Sebastian, Spain?
You Googled food.
I didn't Google food. It was actually my brother who was a foodie. I told him that I was looking for something that says, you got to go to San Sebastian, Spain. Anybody feeling hungry right about now? Okay? Excuse me. Google gets it. If you want to do some research, they call it a 0 moment of truth. GE gets it. So Beth is no longer there. She's now on her own. But she's on record and on video saying it doesn't matter whether you sell jet engines or refrigerators. It matters. So you need to figure out what are these events. More times than not, the competition is one new thing and the old way of doing things. The old way of doing things in the case of WestJet was the bus, right? And it becomes the bus or, no, WestJet, Southwest. It's the bus or Southwest. People don't now start thinking about all the other airlines. They just go Southwest Airlines. So these are what we tried. We tried to use an awareness strategy. I'm better, I'm faster, I'm cheaper. It doesn't work. How many of you have ever switched cell phone providers? Okay, you have a bad experience with one, what do? Go to somebody else right away. When people have a bad experience, they tend to then decide to switch. What I find interesting is a change inside the organization or maybe the family. I know a guy once who all of a sudden decided to take up the sport of Olympic rowing. Why would he all of a sudden start taking up the sport of Olympic rowing? Anybody want to guess?
More time.
Not the Olympics, more time, yes. Her name was Debbie. I started to date Debbie. I wanted to spend more time with Debbie. She was an Olympic rower. If I wanted to spend more time with her, what did I have to do? I had to start rowing. Now, a few years later, I met somebody else. Her name was Marion, and all of a sudden she used to be a road rider. She sold a road bike and bought a mountain bike. Why would she do that? She met a guy. His name was Craig, right? And she decided if I want to spend more time with Craig, I'm going to sell my road bike and go buy a mountain bike. There's always something behind the scenes that drives people to change. And if you understand what these events are, you can find a way to be relevant to people when these events actually happen. We talked about the jewelry, right? You don't compete against jewelry stores. What do you compete against? Chocolate, purses, trips, pets in San Sebastian, Spain. If you want to learn more about competition versus competitors, this is an old Harvard Business Review article. It's like $10. And it completely changed the way I view what my competitors are. I don't compete against people doing the exact same thing I do. I compete against all the different ways that people are solving the problem today. It's called competition. If any of you did a business degree or took a marketing course, you would have heard of a guy named Michael Porter. He talks about the 5 forces: suppliers, buyers, threat of new entrants, competitors, and, anybody remember? Substitutes. Okay?
You sent us this presentation too?
This one gets you. This is the problem we all have. So this is what we all tried. We talk about our product. Here's how great our product is. Here's how great it is. It's like pushing rope. Anybody tried pushing rope? I gave this presentation or a variation of it yesterday. Someone says, yeah, you just make it wet and put it outside. Then you can push rope. Okay, but it's not always -20. Here's what you want to do. You want to find a way to build a bridge. And this is the way that bridges were built. In the old days, what happened was you would have one person on one side of the valley with a bow and arrow. You'd have someone on the other side of the valley hiding in the bushes. And this person would shoot the arrow across the valley and attach that arrow with some thread. And this person would pull on the thread. And when they pull on the thread, what would they find? They find tied to that was some string. And when they pull on the string, what's at the end of the string? There's some rope. And the rope, you can take that and tie it across a tree or around a tree. And now you can find a way to move stuff back and forth a valley. You can actually build a bridge. But you can't throw the rope all the way across the valley. So you have to find a way to have this thing. You're going to tell people. Don't tell them what you want to say. Tell them what they want to hear. What do they want to hear? So I'm going to do one last thing and then I'm going to call it quits. I call it a 7-second sale. I'm a believer you can create instant interest in almost any product or service. You just have to say what's the value by using verbs, not the product by using nouns. So this is what I suggest. How many of you already have customers? Okay, if you already have customers, go back and ask your customer some questions. Go back and ask your customer one specific question. What made you choose us? Don't ask a why question, because why questions make people defensive. But you ask a what question. What made you choose us? When you ask that question, what you're listening for are the verbs that describe the value of being your customer. And that's my variation of not an elevator pitch, but a 7-second sale. This is the way you build a bridge. You get people to ask you the question, how do you do that? Okay? And this is where I had planned to finish. Does anybody have any questions about this? Because I'm going to give you one example once we finish the questions. Anybody got a question? Online?
No, we're good.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make every person in this room the Chief Marketing Officer for the Royal Bank of Canada. You now have enough money to put a 30-second commercial on every TV station in the country once a day, every single day of a month. When are you going to advertise?
During the news.
So during the news, says somebody. Sorry? Evenings. Someone says evenings. So when we're out there marketing, what are we looking for, people? We're looking for a very specific type of person. Are we looking for people that are happy with the status quo? No, we're looking for those that are unhappy with the status quo. Yes?
Depends on your target market.
I'm looking for people that are unhappy with their existing bank. When are people most likely to be unhappy with a bank? End of the month, because they get their statement and there's all these extra charges. So I'm a smart CMO for the Royal Bank. I'm only going to advertise on 3 different days. I'm going to advertise on the 4th of the month 15 times on every TV station. On the 5th day of the month, I'm going to advertise 10 times on every TV station. On the 6th day of the month, I'm going to advertise 5 times on every TV station. And the rest of the month, I'm going to do nothing. Because people aren't unhappy enough, they're going to switch banks. So for me, you need to figure out who are the people that are unhappy and how do you find a way to get their attention. Okay? I'm sure that's 7:31. Okay? What do we have? Do we have a break at this point?
We do, so
Okay.
you have 15 minutes that you can attack him.
Yes, you're going to attack me for 15 minutes, and then at 8 o'clock I got to head back home. I will put some of my business cards up front, so if you don't get to attack me before I leave, you're welcome to call or text me. Just don't email. I have 155,000 unread emails in my inbox. If you don't believe me, come see my phone. So if you call or text me, you're more likely to get an answer. And if you want some help, come to Calgary, buy me a double tall latte, and you can have an hour of my time for the price of a double tall latte.
And he's
Okay.
going to put this presentation, we'll put it so you can watch it, whatever,
Yep.
online.
Done.
Thank you, sir. We can listen to you all night. Well, I'm going to let Colleen Ward, one of our success stories from CEC, tell you all about her story. Thank you for coming, Colleen, and we look forward to hearing about it.
Good evening. 5 years ago this week, I was sitting on that side of the bench, thinking I've got this much information, my partner and I have about this much paperwork that we've collected in the duration of the class, and now what are we going to do with it? And it was, even though we kept on top of it every week, it was a big job right at the end. So what I've been asked to do is kind of give you an overview of what we did, and the type of product we designed cannot be explained without pictures. Right, Darlene?
Right.
Okay, so our company was called Eritor Creations, Inc., and our motto was keeping it real, and I'll show you why.
Push
Okay,
that
what's
just a little closer to you, that's great, thank you.
how we became an internationally respected company in simulation for healthcare education facilities around the world. And that's our little story. We were, both Karen and I lived in Sterling, which, if you're not familiar, is about 20 miles away from here. Karen has an RN, she's got a Bachelor of Nursing and a Master's in Nursing Education. And she was in charge of the Simulated Patient Healthcare Environment Research and Education, which was called SPHERE, and it's in the nursing program at Lethbridge College. And they were using life-size realistic mannequins that could breathe, respond to medical care as any patient would. And if you didn't treat them properly, they would die on you. And you'd have all the monitors on them and everything else. So it was very quickly working well. These mannequins were huge. They were based on a fellow that was 6'3". They were heavy, they were rigid plastic, and then they had all the technology built into them. Karen identified a need, and it was probably 2 or 3 years before we got around to working on it. But her need was she wanted something that she could use on her mannequins to give them a condition known as pitting edema. And that's swelling of the tissue in the legs. If you see a lot of older people, their legs start to swell and over their shoes, and it's really uncomfortable. And it actually is a sign that you have heart problems, because the body can't pump the fluid around, so it puts it into storage into your feet. So that was what she identified with this rigid mannequin. She couldn't do any testing to show the students about pitting edema. So we worked, and this is a testing process with our new product. So Karen collected some supplies and brought them to me. And I said, well, if you show me what it looks like, I can make it. I've got a degree in home economics, and I really enjoy sewing and the challenge of sewing. So she had the nursing education, healthcare side. I had the sewing side. And with that, we were able to create, she came to me, she brought fabric, she brought foam, and she brought me a leg from the mannequin. And if you look at the leg, it's a rigid foot on the leg, and that proved to be one of the more complicated parts of the whole process, was dealing with the foot that didn't flex like our foot does. So these are the supplies. There's a picture of a person with real pitting edema looks like. You can see the swelling, especially over the foot and around the ankle. So that was humans, and that was my product that I made. The first one I made up, Karen took it to work, and the next day, she took it to work in the morning because the leg had to go back for the mannequin. So she took it in, and she put it on, and about an hour later, she phoned me and she says, I broke it. Right now, she had broken it. And what it was I put a zipper in the back so that it would go on and off the leg, but it was just a standard zipper. When she put the standard zipper over the foot that wouldn't move, she broke the zipper. I said, well, that's easy to fix. We put in a separating zipper, just like you have on a coat. So you could wrap it around the leg and then hook either side together. So that was a quick fix for her break. A colleague of Karen saw the product and wanted some for her facility. So there we are, putting them on. And we worked with Lorne McGregor, and he was from the college, and he did a patent application for us. Because Karen worked for the college, it was done as a joint application with the college. And it was until it was accepted, we could not show it to anyone. Now, these are standard procedures for patent applications. We were able to get a non-disclosure agreement with some ladies in Calgary, and their response also came back very positive. So we felt that, okay, we've got feedback from several directions, and it's looking good. So what did we think? Business potential, because she couldn't find anything online, so we thought, okay, maybe we can do something ourselves. So our first product we called Sim Leggings. Sim being simulation of realistic medical condition, and leggings, how and where they fit. And we formed a formal partnership. We felt that if we were going to be doing this and making any money or being accountable for what we were doing, we needed to form a formal partnership at that point. And intellectual property. We weren't able to get a full patent on that because there was another product out there that was online, that was similar. It was supposed to do the same thing, but it never did go to market, so we don't know what happened there. But we were given a design patent, which gave us credit for the design that we made, but it's not a full patent. And the college application included both Canada and the US. And they were the first patents that the college had ever had on any product that was designed in their thing. So 2010, we went to market, and our first conference was in Vegas, and it was an international conference. We got a banner made, we got posters made, we made up a bunch of samples. We were ready for this thing. So our first product, we had the Sim Leggings. We had them in 2 sizes, and at that time we had 3 colors, and they were a big hit with the people that were there. And before we were even completely set up, Anthony Battaglia from Pocket Nurse, which is a big international marketing for nursing education, approached us about putting our products in his international catalog. We were so new, we said, sorry, we can't do that. We just weren't in a position to be, we were sewing one product at a time, and we were just not in a position, and he was fine with that. Then we had lesson number 1. Because we had taken order forms, we had taken samples, we were well prepared for this conference. Did not sell 1 single pair. But what we learned, educational facilities, no matter how much people like your product, there's a process they must go through, and it could easily take a year or more. You find something you like, you research it, write up your justifications for it, you put it on the school budget, there's the kicker, You wait for a year for it to be processed, you get authorization, you order, and finally get to use it. And that first year round was a real eye-opener for us because nobody ordered it that first show. And that's why. You just can't order and buy. Our product was valued at just under $400, and that's over most people's limit of just spending cash to pick up. It was a major investment. By the time the show was set up, we had sim leggings on mannequins in all the major vendor booths. So that's the ones that make all the different kinds of mannequins. Each one agreed to put our sim leggings on their products. One booth had a very dark-skinned mannequin and perfectly matched our dark-skinned sim leggings. So it was kind of neat. So they all wanted to be part of our launch, even though they didn't know us at all. Now, 2011, we jumped forward, and based on the discussion at the conferences, we made a new product. And it represents lymphedema, and we called the product Sim Sleeves. And lymphedema looks like this. It's quite often for women who have had breast cancer, had treatments, and all of a sudden the body starts storing fluid in that arm. It's very painful. And at most, pitting edema occurs in both legs. The body balances it out. Lymphedema quite often is only one arm or a leg. So that's what it looked like on a human, and that's what we made. All of our products had to be realistic, durable, easy to put on and take off, and washable. We made everything, we narrowed it down, and we made everything in 2 flesh tones and 2 sizes. Mannequins come in 2 sizes. So we had to meet the need of both those people labs that had the 2 different sizes. And there's also a whole group, especially in the States, where they use standardized patients. So you get 10 people, you train them for what the symptoms are of a particular health condition, and then you're an actor, and you respond as if you have that actual condition. They're called standardized patients, and it's a totally different type of thing than what we see, especially here in Lethbridge. But it isn't. In 2012, we had to shrink our products. It's not just adults that suffer. There's newborn babies. We have toddlers and youth can have those conditions. So to do that, then we started downsizing. So it's still the same basic pattern. We just modified it to fit the different size mannequins. And you're not going to get standardized patients at this size. 2013, our biggest challenge. From the very first show, everybody wanted a fat suit for obesity scenarios, because obesity is one of the biggest health issues that you're dealing with, whether it's somebody coming into a clinic, somebody having to stay long-term in the hospital, go through surgery. It took us 1.5 years to design the Sim Obesity shirt, because it had to meet all those other conditions. It had to be washable, usable, shippable, all these kinds of things. And this is the fellow that we came up with. So the mannequin was the dark skin. We made the suit, and there's the other one. Now, when you put this on, it weighed about 30 pounds. And that was enough, if you were wearing it, that within minutes you were bending over, you were wobbling. And I was at one conference, and there were a bunch of first-year nursing students were there as a group. So we put them on, and we said, okay, now sit down in this chair. And it was a chair that had arms. They couldn't sit in the chair. Then we said, well, you got to take your shoes off because we got to weigh you. And they start pulling their leg up beside. We said, no, you've been walking on these legs with this much weight. Your knees don't bend like that. And they had to figure out how to get their shoes off. Then hurry up, let's go. We got to go down the hall to get weighed. And we brought them back and took them through the process. And then we said, what did you learn? And the empathy of saying, I have to go slower. I have to offer to help. Like, can I help you take your shoes off? Having the proper size chair. Having access to gowns that fit. Because most obese people are not going to fit the standard hospital gown. And if you're going to take their blood pressure, the standard blood pressure cup will not work. So that was what we were trying to teach the students, was the empathy and identifying what they need. And that was being used, the nursing staff would set up a scenario with them, and then it was a matter of learning how to deal with it, cope with it. And that eye-opener with the group that I was working with, they were just amazed. And then they said, and this is heavy. And we said, no, this represents a 200-pound extra weight that you would be wearing, and it's only 30 pounds. And it was kind of a shock. Production needs to change. From 2010 to 2013, I sewed everything that we call skins. So it was everything that was fabric on each of the legging sim sleeves. Then Karen and I would cut out foam, stuff the sim leggings or sim sleeves, and have them ready to ship as an order. Sim obesity shirts were labor intensive. After all the pieces were cut out, it took 10 hours to sew one and an hour to stuff it after it had been sewn. And that doesn't count how long it took to cut out all the pieces first, because there was 24 or 25 pieces of various fabrics and stuffing and batting and things to fill it up. So we needed to contract out the job. And it was really hard to get consistent quality and timely results from independent contractors. We were only at that point talking to people who liked to sew. After they made one shirt, they didn't want to sew anymore for us. That was it. That was just too much. So at this point, we were still only selling through our website and by attending conferences. So there wasn't as much demand as there could have been. And we chose not to apply for a patent on this product. Karen had retired from the college, so we didn't have the backing of the college to apply for a patent. It costs a fair bit to do an application, and because she wasn't working any longer, we just thought, no, we gotta get this to market. And you only have a very narrow window of being able to expose that product before you void any chance of getting your a patent design approved. So we blew it. So and later on, you'll see why it was a mistake. Okay, lesson number 2. Always expect the unexpected, especially if you're doing business in the USA. Okay, I see a couple of smiles already. We received a lawsuit, notice of a lawsuit from a company in the USA. They claimed our products, our promotion, and our logos infringed on theirs. And what had happened was the year when we took our Sim Obesity shirt to market, there was another company with they called it a fat suit, at the same show. It was totally not like ours. And turns out we did not see them again. So we did not see them again. We never saw them at any trade shows. Our promotion company had not seen them anywhere else, so we just thought they passed on and they weren't doing it anymore. Well, it turns out what they were doing was spying on us. They were keeping track of absolutely everything we did on our website, everything we did with our products, and everything else. So we had, when we set up our first 2 patents, we had a US patent lawyer, and we had him on speed dial for a year, negotiating on our behalf. Well, they said, your logo matches our logo. Well, no, our logo is blue, our logo has a person in it. Well, they had a person as their logo. So they said, oh, it's too close to the same. Well, and we went back and forth. Your wording on one page on your website has 4 words the same order that our 4 words are. And then that's how picky they were being. And our lawyer was great. He funneled back information to them very quickly and said, no, no, no. Turns out that there are companies in the US that make their money by suing other companies. US companies would rather pay a settlement to them than to make them go away than fighting a claim in court. It's just a cost of business from a lot of the US companies, we learned later. We weren't used to this and we refused to pay. And we also insisted that because we were based in Canada and they were based in the US, they'd have to come up here and fight us. I don't think they like that too much either. So it cost us $10,000 to have our lawyer fight this other company. The good thing was they never got any of it. The challenging company never got anything. And we haven't heard from them since, and nobody's ever seen them back on the market with those products. Okay, 2014, which happens to be 5 years ago, was, we had a very positive reputation for our products. Future growth had to be either through increasing sales or continuing to add new products. And we were running out of product ideas that were big and worthwhile to do. So we incorporated as Eritor Creations, Inc. So much more of our marketing was going to the States that we felt we could go into becoming a corporate partner. Instead of just a partnership, we incorporated. We did the 2014 Entrepreneur Challenge. As we learned new ideas, we tried to incorporate them into our plan as well as into our business immediately. And one of the big ones was one night, we were talking about insurance and liability and stuff like that. And it was pointed out to us that because most of our products were going into the States, we should have some kind of US liability insurance to protect our company and ourselves because of this threat of suing. The other thing was our obesity shirt fit on a $10,000 mannequin. And if there was a malfunction to the mannequin, they could blame us for doing it. Even though every company we dealt with actually tested our product on theirs to say, no, nothing's happening, but they wouldn't put it in writing. So we were confident with our product, we just didn't have anything to prove it. We found a manufacturing facility in Calgary that met our strict production standards. And she was a real sweetheart. She was a little lady from Vietnam. Her husband, her son, and several other people worked in the sewing place. When we went into her, we took finished products. We took a full kit of all the supplies to make each of our products, a very, very detailed set of instructions. And we find out she doesn't speak English. Doesn't speak very much English. So the first thing she did, she took it all out and she looked and she kind of wondered about these things we were asking her to make. And then she took the pile of instructions over in the corner. And then she looked at this and she asked some logical questions about either things that she was making. And we found she can't read English. She can follow pictures, but she's awesome at sewing from looking at something. So we gave her the pattern pieces all cut out and she put it together. And we asked her if, because there was the legging, there was the sleeve, and there was the shirt, if we could get all the samples back in 2 weeks. And in less than 10 days, we had all of them back, and everything was exactly the way we wanted. Quality control, we were just amazed with her. And we said, well, can you make more? I said, oh yeah, just we can make any number we want. We'll just, she took us through the factory, showed us how she could layer the fabric and get them pre-cut, all the right size, and always guaranteed to be consistent. And then her staff, her husband specialized in zippers and her, different ones. And then we started dealing with her son, and he was raised in Canada, so he was English speaking. And he kind of acted as our interpreter a bit as we went along. We rebranded our company, and then Anthony Battaglia, does the name sound familiar, approached us again on behalf of Pocket Nurse to be our distributor. So 2010 we said no, but he came back to us in 2014 saying that we were doing more things, and he was the first company to ask to distribute our products. And it's right target market onto all the schools. His catalog's going to all the right places. And this time we said absolutely, we were ready. But he was nice enough to us that he did not ask for exclusive rights to our products. So by the time that year was up, we had 5 different companies that were distributing for us throughout the States. And they were running competition with Pocket Nurse, right, at conferences and everything else. Our product could show up in several different booths, which was very unique. Usually you get the exclusivity just as a thing, but that wasn't one of the things that required. So then comes developing a business plan. See this nice spike? These are sales. This nice spike. This was what we'd done for 4 years. We're cruising along. This was the month we sent our first order to Pocket Nurse. So we made a huge difference to our company. With 3 years of experience, we knew our primary target market was post-secondary institutions with nursing or paramedic courses. Our market, up till then, was less than 5% Canadian, greater than 90% US, and then we had some in Germany, Australia, England, but not enough to be significant. So that was where our target was the US, so you can't do a lot of advertising in here. Until 2014, our business plan was start small, increase gradually, to have no debt, and to maintain top quality products. And that was the key one, actually, the top quality products. That reputation is so important. But our products didn't wear out. Nobody needed replacements for the products they had. But the simulation industry was growing, and instead of one lab, Lethbridge College went to 100% increase. Here they went from 1 to 4, I think. So that was how we were expanding our market. From our business plan, one of our new goals, during the SWOT analysis, we identified a big weakness. Karen and I are the same age. We weren't getting any younger. Well, actually, we had just started into business. We were too late getting into business. But we were right on target for when the simulation industry was growing. We won the technical section of the challenge in 2014. We won $10,000. And I promptly wrote one check and paid 2 invoices with $10,000 to pay for all the products that we had shipped the month before. They gave us that much leeway. So there we are, we won it. And one of the goals that we set for our company was to sell the company within 2 years. That was one we identified, not just identified that we needed to do it, we put a deadline on it. We said we wanted to do it within 2 years. Now, 90% of the people who know us are not in Canada. So 2015, we start with a new design. This is a young fellow, and his obesity is not just in his belly in a smaller child, it's through the legs and the arms and everything. So we made a suit instead of just a shirt. And we used money that Bill Halley arranged for us through RINSA to apply for a design patent again. And then we made some obesity leggings for the obesity shirt, which were just longer ones. Instead of just coming to the knee, they came right up to the hip. But fortunately, anything that was a sim legging style goes back under the same patent, which was really nice. We didn't have to reapply for patents on these designs. We talked to all of our key distributors to see if anybody wanted to buy the company. There was nobody that was interested in the company. So we just kept working on growing the company. We didn't give up. We thought, okay, well, we'll just keep going with designs and do it. Then, January 2016, there's a huge international conference in San Francisco. And Anthony is there as the owner of the company. His second in command is Bill. Day one, everything's all set up. Anthony comes in and says, how's that stuff doing? Pretty good. Comes in the second day. How's that stuff looking now? Oh, it's doing pretty good. Comes in the third day. Yeah, it's pretty good. He says, go buy the company. That's what he told Bill, go buy the company. So middle of January, we get a phone call, and Anthony wants to buy our intellectual property. He doesn't want the company and all of the hassles that go with owning a company. He wanted the IP. Okay? So the negotiations were really fair. A U.S. company buying a Canadian company worked well for them because their offer was made in Canadian dollars. So that saved them 30% right there. And they even wanted to keep our manufacturing company in Calgary because we had them so well trained and they were so dependable. And we did a good sales pitch on that. We actually took, Anthony and Bill came from Pennsylvania out to see us and to go in and meet these people, and they were just thrilled with what they could do. So that was good for us, just to feel good that we had started them with something. They had great skills and they were recognized for their great skills. So that was Falconer's with their offer, but they made one big condition. When they made the offer, there was a financial exchange. They were willing to take our products, our patterns, our everything except the actual company. But there was one condition. We had not patented the Sim Obesity shirt. He wanted that patent. Wanted that patent really bad. So, yeah, we had to come up with a new design before we could sell the company. No pressure there. We had to come up with a Sim Obesity shirt version 2 that could get a design patent. Now, if anybody's tried applying for one yet, your competition is anything else that's on the market that does the same thing you're saying your product can do. Design patent, it can be the difference of zippers and stitching and oddball, smaller things, but it has to be able to be different. Well, our biggest competition was our own shirt. Okay? So fortunately, when we did, after we used our first design, a shirt, we started to realize there were things we were wanting to change anyhow, because we had 2 zippers, one up either side, so we could get the shirt on. It always pulled forward on the shoulder. We didn't feel that we had the front paunch maybe working as good as it could. So we had already some idea of what we wanted to do. So we got to work really quickly and had to get another design going. Within a month, we had version 2 made, sent it off to get design patent in Canada, the US. And for some reason, it was just as the US patent system was changing, and they hired a whole bunch more staff. So instead of waiting 18 months to get approved, we were approved in less than a year, which really helped. And that is version 2. So it's probably hard if you haven't looked at them at the same time, but it's got an extra roll in the belly. We moved the shoulders back to sustain the weight a little bit better. Moved the zippers to the back, which made it easier to put on the mannequins or standardized patients. And it also weighs more. This is called the pannus, and there's a lot of weight in there. Then there's another level of weight in the stomach. Now, you look at that, we had to be able to take that apart and wash it. Was one of our own personal conditions to this. And it had to fit people and it had to fit mannequins. But we did do it. We provided the training for Pocket Nurse staff in every aspect of production and marketing. They actually flew us down to Pennsylvania for a week and did all the training as part of their part of the negotiations. They kept our product names because of the reputation that we had on them, and they are still in the 2019 catalog. So we were thrilled with how this all worked out. So version 2, I don't think in the catalog it's listed as version 2 now, but it is this shirt that they're marketing. Business plan number 2. Early in the sale negotiations, we were asked to provide a current business plan. And we just updated our award-winning 2014 plan, and we just added better sales projections. Because by that time, we knew what it was like to have distributors. We knew the volume increase that they had made by having those products. So we were able to do that. There's our business, that's our original 2014 business plan. And revising the plan was so much easier than starting from scratch at that point. Because we're talking January, we get notified, February, March, and we had this back to them. And then at the same time, we were just redesigning the shirt and running the business and selling on a regular basis. So a few conclusions. We identified a need in the simulation environment, and we were first on the market to meet the need. The two of us had complementary skills. I said she was a nurse, I was a home economist, so she could deal with the education. She had the contacts with nursing schools. She was used to what conferences were there. We had different contacts, experience, but we were both had a lot of determination. We were very hands-on in our management style. I managed the website. We did our own bookkeeping. We did all of our shipping, our handling, our processing. We did all of it ourselves. At that point, we were able to keep up with it. And we consulted many resource people within the community. Bill Halley was probably our prime contact person for everything. If we needed help, he would find it for us. And sometimes they came out of Edmonton to help us. Sometimes they were at a conference here. It worked really good. Morley, we worked a lot with Morley, not just on the for the challenge, but consulting otherwise. And we found when you ask Morley a question, he'll usually ask you a question back and get you thinking in a different line. And it really helped. It really put a different perspective on what we were doing. The whole experience taught us a lot about all aspects of running a business and our personal strengths and weaknesses. We visited many great conference locations and made new friends. We were actually written up in a simulation book as well. There were a couple of the people that we knew, one from Edmonton and one from the southern states, wrote a book on simulation, and an article that we had written and complimenting us was actually published. We're confident that we helped many instructors make more realistic scenarios for their students, enabling the students to be more confident as they go out into the real world. Because they had the experience, they had a chance to deal with an obese person without being embarrassed or shy or anything else, and how to deal with them, how to find what was the problem. So that was kind of our 6 years, and we sold it in 5 years. We allowed 2 years to sell, and we sold it exactly 1 year. We wanted it. We were jokingly said that when we turned 65, we wanted to be out of the business. The day I turned 65 was the day I signed the contract. So we couldn't have guessed that one any better, but it was all, I think Anthony had been watching us, he'd been watching the progress, and all of a sudden he says, you know, I'm ready to expand my business in a certain way. And that he told us after we signed the negotiations on this one, he says, I know the next company I want to work with. He says, I'm going to be as fair with them as I was with you. Okay, you got a good chance, because I knew the other company too, so that was fun. So our company, just for interest and fun's sake, we named our company Eritor. If you spell Eritor backwards, you get retired. So if anybody's got some questions, I did bring my original, we kept it tight, business plan. And then for the fun of it, Karen and I each have a scrapbook album of everything that we, a summary of everything we did, which was kind of fun going back, because it was about a year afterwards, and we pulled it all together as to what was going on. So, anybody got some questions?
If you have questions, please close the mic. If not, move on to our next set. I think we're all tired towards the movie.
Oh, sure.
Thank you very much. It was very nice.
Okay, this is the screener's evaluation guide. So these are the things that your plan is going to be judged on. There's a copy of this in the shared materials site, and I think it's very important that you spend some time with it. It totals up 86, and I'll show you how. So across the executive summary, you can get up to 5 points if you do the things that it says, right? But in the one that says team, you can only get 3 points. So all of them have 5 except for, I believe, 2. And that's how the 86 comes into effect. So a perfect score on your business plan would be 86. And you could get up to 4 points if you attended all the training sessions, correct? So 90 would be excellent. I think you should spend some time with this before you submit your plan. I want to remind you, and I printed off some page 21s. You know I'm always saying page 21 of the handbook, because it says, use this font, it's got to be 20 pages or less. You can use graphs and whatever you want, but it still can't be more than 20 pages. So on that page 21, and I printed off a few over there for you, I want to point out something that was a sort of a typo in here, but that 21 has it right. It says that you need to submit a business plan that has, and it tells you all of the sections, right? So, and if you compare it to here, I'll go up, they match. Executive summary, customer, team, product, service, etc., till you get down to where it says competition and channels. This one is correct. They are separate items. You can get 5 points for each. In the handbook as it is on our website, it goes competition and channels together. So remember, separate them, because you want to get 5 points for each. Okay, so you gotta address both those issues, don't address them as one. Okay? Your submissions need to be into us by Thursday, April 4th at 2 p.m. And I want to go back to that submission, just to take that, we talked briefly about it. Yes, thank you. So on ChinookChallenge.com, you're going to the business plan submission. And what's the, see, it's open because I already put the passcode in before, but what is it?
CEC 2019.
And it's capital C's, okay? So you do your thing, you get to that registration number, and remember, it was emailed to you the very first time after you registered. It'd be 2019 and then 3 digits, okay? So make sure you have that. That's the that trick there. It tells you all the parts that you're going to submit. Check them off. Check off your stream. Now you know what we're calling technology, right? If you choose to go for the Tech Connect, apply to the Tech Connect award for a business space in Lethbridge at Tech Connect. So I'm saying that for the Zoomers. They're welcome to do it, but it's in Lethbridge. Then you would check the yes, and more information would follow. You drop your files where it says select the files. You've seen the non-disclosure and the participant agreement before, but just read them again. It says things like you have to agree to spend the money if you win it by December 31st, 2019. You have to provide receipts to us for those business expenses that if you win. One of you has to be 18 if you're in a group and like a team. You can't have won the CEC for the grand prize of the CEC in the last 5 years. If you're an existing business, you're agreeing that, you know, you meet the qualifications, like you have 20, less than 20 full or part-time people, your annual revenues were less than 500,000, that kind of thing, okay? So just read it, sign it, tell it you're not a robot. We tested it. It comes direct to me, but the person didn't get an email back. But I will email you back and say, I got it, I can open it, okay? Just so that you know. Was there anything in the handbook that anybody had a question on? Because now I've asked Darlene to stay late too, so if there's anything you're unsure of as far as eligibility or anything like that, now is a good time to address it. Or if it's too specific, you can email us. I just want to see if there was anything else I was going to tell you. We need a minimum of, remember I said 15 plans? It's actually 18, because there has to be 15 general plans and 3 tech plans in order for the competition to run. So please submit a plan, even if you don't think it's your best plan, because it helps the other people that really have a good plan going to get the competition to run. In the shared material site, I always try to put different things in there for you, but there's some Chamber of Commerce business courses that I thought you might relate to Lethbridge. Sorry, Zoomers, but you probably can check your business, your local Chamber of Commerce for the same thing. But there's some very reasonable business courses in there. There's, if you liked Craig Elias, he's coming March 14th and 15th to Tech Connect for I think $10, and that covers your lunch. Like, who wouldn't spend 2 days with him if they could afford the time for that kind of money? He's so enthusiastic. I printed it off because I wanted to mention what else was in there. But take a look. Have we left anybody wondering about anything? And remember, you can come and ask Morley Bell that she was referring to for assistance. You can ask any of your local community futures offices to provide you with some business advisor course, help I mean, not course. And we just won't send our screening of that particular plan to them. Like, we spread it around between the 8 offices of community futures that are involved. So don't hesitate to ask for help. Remember, Holly at businesslink.ca had information and said you could send a section at a time of your business plan to her. The Tech Connect people help, the EDL Lethbridge people were good with helping with research. So there's just a lot of people that can help you if you need some help let's see if I wanted to tell you anything else.
There is one question.
Oh, sure.
I have a question. So say you usually work with judges already been appointed, have they?
Yes?
So say, I don't know if I work often with, I'm not word after his name, Bruce.
Bruce or Bill?
Yes, Bruce. So can I still carry on working with him while I'm doing my plan?
I think so. He will let you know if there's any area that he's not comfortable with, or if he needs to refer you to someone else if it gets too in-depth. Darlene says, yeah. Like, they'll decide if, you know, if you're pushing it too far. I hope we've given you a good sampling of things that you need to get you started. The most of the work is on you now, but you all know all the resources that you have available and how we're all willing to help. So get going on it, then contact somebody if you need help with the section, whatever. Stay in touch with me if you need, oh, that's what I was going to tell you. So I'm working on that Friends of CEC, and I've got us 13 of us so far, Tyler. So what you need to do is send me, and Zoomers too, send Chinook Challenge, like Facebook/Chinook Challenge, a friend request. I'll friend you, and then I can add you as a member to that group, the friends, and it's a closed group. Nobody else can see other than the ones we add. And then you can start asking each other's questions and sending each other your surveys and things like that. I think it'll work out well, but it's sort of a work in progress.
What is it called again?
If you send a friend request to Facebook/Chinook Challenge, then I'll invite you to join Friends of CEC. Well, it's actually Friends of Chinook Entrepreneur Challenge. I think it'll work out for you.
So
Darlene?
Penny, something I just wanted to
Yes?
add, because it seems so obvious, but I've seen business plans submitted that didn't follow it. So when it says that you have sections that say executive summary, customer team, you make sure in your business plan that you have executive summary, bold, and you have customer, bold. So when people are screening it, that they are comparing apples to apples. So, I mean, some people just don't do that. So make sure you follow the instructions to the T. The nice thing is if you submit a teeny bit early instead of 2 o'clock on that date, we will take the time and we'll quickly go through, and if there's something that is really simple fix for you, but we notice is would disqualify you, we have a chance to say to you, go back and fix this. But if you deliver it 12, 1, 2 o'clock on that day and we get a whole bunch of business plans, we don't have the opportunity. 2 o'clock is a hard deadline, and that's for a legal issue, right? Because when you give away money, you have to follow it to the T. So get it in a bit early, then we can always help you if we see something that's really obvious. So best of luck to everybody, and it'll be exciting to see some business plans.
I brought a few blank ones from the office, and they're very similar to the ones in the back of your handbook. But if you want to grab one, just see if you get some different ideas. But yes, it does say executive summary, and fill it in. Capital, fill it in. And for your Zoomers, you can get one from your Community Futures office as well. Any other questions? Good luck, everybody. And if you need help, ask for help. I mean, we'll find someone who can help you, but good luck. We really want you to succeed. Thank you. Goodbye. I'm going to check the Zoomers just to see if there was a question. You guys can go if you want, but just let me check the Zoomers and see if anybody said anything. It says, the files uploaded, do they want them all together in a PDF or each section? I think probably all together. I can't remember.
Altogether is one business plan. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. I looked at the questions from the Zoomers, and Diane, all together, please. So like one big PDF, et cetera. Basically, we're going to have to forward your file off to a screener. So yes, make it one big PDF if you can. Thank you.